Welcome to Backyard Oasis, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Backyard Oasis reaches out to older adults who seek knowledge to help them live more thoughtfully, healthily, and happily, who hope to inspire others with their ideas, and who serve their communities in the interest of the greater good. Hi, this is Dennis Lee. Our guest today on the Backyard Oasis podcast is Sharon Martula. Sharon, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Dennis.
Well, I'm glad you're here because in Backyard Oasis podcasts, we sometimes, we go in different directions. Originally, we started, it was going to be about people making transitions in life. That was an idea, and we've done that, and we'll do that with you. But then sometimes we just want to talk to interesting people, and I think everybody has a story, no matter who you are, even if you think somebody's boring. I don't mean you, obviously, but just people in general. If you talk to Joe Smith on the street and you tapped him on the shoulder, he has a story. Mm-hmm. If you ask the right questions. So sure. we're basically telling stories, and hopefully it's interesting and people can enjoy it. I think it's always interesting finding out how someone starts out in life. Mm-hmm. What happens along the way. Now, I don't know about you, but I think some people know exactly what they want to do. They go to school for that, they come out, and that's what they do. Other people go by way of Northampton to Cleveland and come back, so you just never know. But I think it's really interesting to try to figure out how we all got to where we're going.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, I thought, I always say, as the song goes, let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start, right? So let's talk about your life a little bit. I know you're from Northampton, and then you went to school. Where did you go to school?
I went to school in several places. I was educated in Northampton schools. For a brief period of time, my family moved to Hadley, and I met my future husband there. And I went to Hopkins Academy. Mm-hmm. Came back, and Northampton High School didn't know what to do with me, so I ended up going to St. Michael's, and that's where I graduated, at the Catholic school.
Right, and then that's now a senior living place in Northampton.
It is.
By the way, yeah. And then where did you go to college?
I went to college in a very different way. I started my bachelor's before I was married. And then after I was married and started my family, I didn't finish. But I was in my 40s, and I decided it was time for me. I had my family young. They were teenagers or grown, married.
How many kids?
I have 4. And I still had 3 living at home at the time. But I went back to school, finished my bachelor's, worked through Cambridge College, which had an initiative program back then where they would accept only a couple of people with life experience and some bachelors. Mm-hmm. So I finished my degree through them.
And that's where was Cambridge College, or where was it?
It's located in Cambridge, actually. But they
Cambridge,
have
Mass.
Satellite programs here, and one of them was in Northampton.
Yep.
When I started, it was in Northampton. And anyway, I finished my bachelor's, what I needed for the bachelor's, but I wanted a master's degree. No one in my family had had more education than just a bachelor's. And so I said, being the firstborn, being type A personality and all the rest of it, I wanted the master's. So I got my master's. It took me 4 years to finish the bachelor's and get the master's degree.
Now, what was your first job? Where did you go work-wise?
Work-wise, I actually had a job as a secretary before I had my children. And then after that, I stayed home with the family for probably 8-9 years. Then went to work at Hooker School in Hadley. And I chose that because my children were in school. And that gave me the snow days off, that gave me holidays off, gave me summers off, so I could work around my family situation.
I have memories from being in school, which was a long time ago, but I do remember that the school secretaries really ran the place.
Oh, yes.
I know you had the principals. I know they were the boss, but the secretaries knew where everything was buried. They knew the enemies. They know who were the nice people.
They certainly did.
Right? Do you have any memories from that? I like to think back.
Oh, I do. The most famous memory I have of working during that time was two gentlemen came upstairs to my office and showed me their FBI badge. They were FBI agents, and they were looking for a child who had been abducted. And they were told that the children most probably were in a rural setting and were going to a rural school. And so they questioned me an awful lot. But you're right, they didn't go to the principal. They didn't go to the teachers. They came to me. And I was sorry I couldn't help them. I wished I could say they're downstairs in
Did
third
they ever
grade.
find the kid? Do you know if they ever found the kid?
I don't know. I
Wow.
don't know.
Yeah.
I certainly hope they
Now,
did.
did you work at Hopkins Academy at some point? Did you?
I
work
did. I worked in the
school?
library there. That was where I first went to work. I was a library assistant. And again, wasn't the librarian who knew everything. It was me.
Right.
So it was funny. But an opening happened at Hooker School, which was the elementary school.
In Hadley,
In
Massachusetts.
Hadley,
We never
yes.
know who's listening. You know, when someone clicks on to a podcast, there could be somebody in North Carolina listening.
True.
We don't know. So we always have to tell you or tell people where we're talking about in case we have some people sneaking in from below the border or wherever.
Okay.
You know.
It is Massachusetts. Yes.
Yeah, it is interesting. I had Dave Mattson on, who used to be on Channel 40, as a guest a few weeks ago, and we were talking about that. And one of the things that really fascinated both of us, Dave was a TV guy. I'm a radio guy, or was a radio guy in a career, but you never know who's listening. Mm-hmm. It's really kind of fascinating. As a matter of fact, I emailed you, and then you're involved with Northampton Neighbors, and I just sent something to them the other day telling people about podcasts in general or what we were doing through Greenfield Community College. And in 2 days, I've got 3 replies. One of them was, I think I told you off air, a lady who thought she knew my mom, where my mom used to live. So when we talk about the media, to me, it's fascinating. It really is. That's the most fascinating thing to me. It's not doing it. It's not the fact that we're doing this. But the fact is, as we do this, we don't know who might hear this and who might learn something from it or be entertained or be happy about it or sad or disagree. You know, it's really kind of fascinating.
Sure.
And so you worked at Hopkins Academy for a little bit.
I did for probably a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then I went to Hooker School, and I worked there for probably 3 or 4 years.
Right.
But I was the central everything. And it was funny. Another funny story from that was that I used to listen to symphony music. It was on very low, but it was there in the background while I was working. And one of the field trips that the third graders had was to go to a symphony in Springfield. And this little girl piped up in the middle of it and said, "That's Mrs. Martula's music." So it was kind of funny, you know, the funny things that happen. Children say the darndest things.
Right. Art Linkletter made a career out of that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. It's fascinating to me. Another aspect of just dealing with people and what you were doing, it's the fact that you never know what will happen because you were nice to somebody when you were a secretary. You were just going in, doing your job.
Yes.
It was another day at work, okay? And you had your own family and everything else. But you have no idea, most of the time, I'm guessing, if you make a difference.
I certainly hope so. One of the things about growing old, and I'm a little bit old, is that you hope that in some way you inspire someone along the way to do something in their life that they probably wouldn't have thought of doing if it weren't for the exchange between yourselves and them.
Right. I know with teachers, they don't know exactly what effect they have on people. They may know test scores, but they don't know if they wink at a kid, makes a kid feel better when he's feeling bad, or if they yell at a kid, how that affects the kid.
Exactly.
Positive and negative. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to tell this story because you worked in a school. You'll get a kick out of it. And I'm going to do this because I'm not doing this attacking teachers. I want to preface that. My mother worked in a elementary school in Westport, Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut originally. And she worked in the office. She liked the job. All the troublemaking kids, the kids that get in the most trouble, loved her. She seemed to gravitate toward them and vice versa. Okay? And when I was growing up, I don't know about you, but I bet you this is true. My mom would say if I had a problem in school, look, you're the kid, shut up, the teacher's in charge. Not like today, I think, with maybe some of the helicopter parents that are going into the teacher. That's a generalization, not everybody, but I think it's different now is what I'm saying, okay? And after she worked there for like 2 or 3 years. I came home. I think I was working in Springfield at the time. I came home and she said, I have an apology to make to you. I couldn't imagine what it was. She said, remember how I always took your side over the teachers? I said, yeah. She said, well, not all of them, but there are some teachers in the teacher's room, I wouldn't let them teach my dog. And I laughed. And once again, I'm not attacking all teachers. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is, in any career, there are good secretaries and bad secretaries, and someplace in the middle, right?
Absolutely.
Most people in any career, And so she apologized to me, but I'll never forget that because she, and I wasn't even thinking about it. She just out of the clear blue, I have an apology. She had thought about that. I thought
good
that
for
was.
her.
I thought that was. But you would know as somebody I'm sure in any business you were in, there were good people and bad people. The point is, there are good people and bad people in any business, right?
Absolutely.
And you probably know most people. You know who the good ones are. Just like I bet you nurses know who the good doctors are and the whole thing. So I find that kind of interesting.
I do too.
And you probably have stories about teachers, but I don't want to get into any of that stuff.
Right.
Because, we'll get in trouble. Let's talk about you going to Smith College. And you did some work there, and I saw you had it listed as benefits manager. Speak to me in English. What's that?
What is that? Well, that is someone who manages for the different people who worked at Smith College, from the very lowest to the very highest, and getting the right benefits for them, explaining the benefits, enrolling them in the benefits.
To the people that work there, not for students, right?
No, it was just employees.
Right. So how do you, in a job like that, how do you keep it interesting for yourself? In other words, I know from talking to you a little bit, I think you're a people person, to use a common phrase. So, but when you're dealing with that, that's pretty dry stuff, where you talk about insurance policies and benefits. What's the joy in doing a job like that?
The joy in doing a job like that is, for the most part, you make a difference for those people. We talked about that. How do you make a difference in a person's life? Well, explaining their benefits and what they have and can have, because it's elective, allows them to make choices about what their future will be.
Right.
And that includes their life insurance, their health insurance, their retirement, long-term disability, all of that. That's all the benefits, and more so, other benefits that will help them through their employment at Smith College.
Right. So that's where you get the satisfaction doing the research to find out about what they need?
Yes.
Right.
And researching, at one point, while I was at Smith College in the benefits office, they decided to open up the retirement plan to another group other than what they had then was Teachers Insurance Association, TIAA, CREF. That was it. That was for anybody that worked in a college. But they opened it up to different options. And so I was required in my job to find out all I could about those options because I had to explain to them the differences in an annuity policy that they might have after they've retired, or having something like Fidelity where they have a choice of different types of retirement for themselves. Do they want to, for instance, go with a high risk plan, which gives them probably more benefit throughout their working years, or do they want to be cautious about their investment?
Right. And so you had to do that.
Something.
You had to do that research so you could counsel
Yes,
them.
I did,
Right,
but I had to know something about them in order to be able to, where were they in their. They going to be a long-term employee, or are they just going to be someone who's going to work their summers?
Right.
What is their plan for their employment at Smith?
No, I know you got into the insurance business.
I did.
Explain that, because we can go a lot of different ways with that, just about your experience. What year would you be talking about when you're talking about insurance? When was that, when you were working, just roughly?
Well, I was actually recruited out of Smith College by a large insurance agency in Springfield. And I, again, was recruited for the benefits side. The HR director was there. But it was looking at benefits from the opposite view, and it was from insurance, okay?
Right.
Not from benefits to the employee, but understanding what we were offering to companies.
Right. I know you were involved a lot in customer service.
I was.
Let's get into that, because it's changed so much today. Do you know, I was trying to call a doctor's office today, and they couldn't get through to a human being.
Yeah.
I'm talking about customer service. Could not have called 3 times, 4 times. Supposed to call you back, not talking to a human being. I don't know how that's possible, how it could be possible when you're talking about medical care, but that's what's happening. But you believed in, let's talk a little bit about your views on service and helping people, because I know you're doing a lot of stuff with Northampton Neighbors to help people, so I know you have a desire to help. So let's talk about what that was like and what that experience was like.
What that was like was really feeding my soul, okay, because you're right. Helping people was exactly what I wanted to do. And we offered service through our insurance company, because I left the insurance agency, went to work for an insurance company. That company was located in Cincinnati, Ohio. And so I worked from home before it was fashionable to work from home. And I did that because I traveled so much in the job. I went personally to see people who had large insurance policies with us, or who had some sort of issue with the service that we provided. It was my job to smooth it over. It was my job to help them understand what we offered, and if there were issues, correct them in the moment.
Right. Any philosophy with regard to that? Maybe that's too out there of a question, but did you develop a way of dealing with people, talking to people? Somebody listening now could even use that? In other words, is there something that you know that you've learned, the secret sauce, let's say, so that maybe you could help somebody even now they're listening? Well, this lady is talking about years ago doing insurance, but what would you tell them?
Well, I always preface my insurance work with, can you even imagine someone being responsible for customer service at an insurance company?
Wow.
That was something very, very different back then. It came about as a result of my having done that work, actually, in-person work with customers we had at the insurance agency. So it was a nice segue into that particular role. But I was a problem solver. That's basically what customer service is being a problem solver. Yeah. So the problem-solving skills that I developed in all the various jobs that I had prior to going to work for the insurance agency helped me to develop that personable skill of helping and solving the problem.
Because people, whether it's insurance or a doctor's office or a mechanic's office, people are sometimes frustrated, and sometimes there's a lot of money involved. Not always. It's not always about the money, but you just want to feel like somebody hears you.
Absolutely. The insurance company that I worked for, their kind of motto or the way they did business was, let us find a way to cover this loss. It was not about rejecting the person or the issue or the problem. It was finding a solution. Mm-hmm. Can we find anywhere in this insurance policy that we can cover this loss? Wow. That was their philosophy. Right. And I'll tell you for instance here, I shouldn't be bragging, but I am.
Go ahead. Is
that when the 9/11 happened, we insured an awful lot of people in those top floors, the companies. Great American Insurance was given an award, actually, by the president for how we handled those cases.
How long did you work for them?
I worked for them for 17 years.
Wow.
My arriving at Great American was after 9/11. But we had a plaque that was given to us for the fine service that we provided for those companies that lost all those employees.
And how about, do you take it home with you when you hear bad stories about things that happen with policies, meaning, well, particularly with 9/11, do you go home and just forget it, or do you think of it over spaghetti at night?
I think it over spaghetti.
Yeah.
I care.
Yeah.
I mean, that was primarily the message that came across to people that I was dealing with in the customer service role, was they could tell face to face, just as we are, that I cared.
Why do you think you were good at it?
I think I was good at it because I cared about people.
All right.
I mean, that whole piece, you can't fake that, okay? When you're sitting across from someone who's had, or one gentleman I can tell you of, for instance, I mean, he came into the room screaming and yelling at me, pounding on the table that he wasn't ever going to get insurance with us again, until I straightened out what his issue was. He was so angry with us, but it was over a minor little thing. Usually that's the thing. It's a minor little thing. It's not the big problems. It's the little ones that people feel so passionately about. And I solved his problem in the moment because I got in touch with the office that was handling his claim and had them speak to each other and have him tell them what exactly his issue was. Got straightened out right there.
17 years, there got to be a lot of claims over 17 years.
Oh, there was a lot of claims, yes. And a lot of visits to the companies that we insured.
Now, you traveled a lot.
I did.
So would be silly if I didn't ask you about where you went that you remember. Were there places? Did you get a chance to do anything other than the business? Did you get a chance to look at the cities, or was it in and out and go home?
Sometimes it was in and out and go home. But the most memorable one that I had was a person who we had dinner with one evening, and he was talking about Oklahoma City. And I said, of all the times that I've been here, I've never seen where it happened. And he took me there.
Where was this now?
Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma City. You had the
Yes.
bombing, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the bombing, yes.
Yeah.
It was the saddest thing I've ever seen, all those little chairs.
Yeah.
It was so sad.
Wow.
But I had never seen it before, and all the times, I had been to Oklahoma City several times, but this was my first to go and actually see.
Do you have a favorite part of the country that you visited?
Alaska.
Alaska.
Yes.
Why Alaska?
Well, it's beautiful. Other than that, I went to Anchorage. That was where the customer was. And it looked like, and it reminded me of 1950s Northampton. I don't think there was a building over 5 stories. It was just very quaint and kind of old-fashioned. But I saw the most beautiful flowers I have ever seen in that city. And I couldn't figure out why. We're in Alaska, for heaven's sakes. But because of the fact that they have just what is twilight 6 months out of the year and daylight 6 months out of the year, those plants really flourished.
There used to be a joke about going on a blind date, ended up for 6 months with somebody, and you were sorry. I don't remember the setup, but I remember I went on a 6-month blind date. I thought it was only going out for a night, right? Anyway, I don't know why I think of these things. You say Alaska, and it pops into my brain. What can I tell you?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Alaska, that's interesting. I want to talk, before we wrap up, I know you're retired now, and I know you're involved with Northampton Neighbors, which is really helping seniors be independent. And I know that there are a lot of different organizations. I just learned that there's an organization in East Hampton, and also, I believe, in Greenfield. If it's not, I believe it's formed, and if not formed, it's going to be formed.
Yeah.
And so there's a need for having people to get help if you're a senior, and you've got help, but then also you're helping people now because you go into the office to help out the executive director. And I talked to her yesterday, and I said, tell me, I need something. I want to be able to talk to Sharon Martula, and I have my ideas, but tell me something about Sharon. And the director, Diane, said, well, Sharon comes into the office. She gets more done in 1 hour than I do. So you must, I don't know if you have a magic wand or what it is, but obviously you're getting a lot of stuff done.
I am, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy helping Diane a lot.
Right.
I got services. I can't tell you what a difference it made in my own life from having services delivered to me by Northampton Neighbors. It just changed my world completely, and I wanted to give back.
What kind of services, just so people can get an idea?
Oh, gosh, grocery shopping, and doctor's appointments, and going to the senior center, and going to Look Park just to go and sit by the water and enjoy. It's everything. It's mostly transportation, but I do get groceries delivered sometimes, and that kind of thing. Right. You give them a list, they give them your card, trust.
Yeah. But you're giving back now. You're helping other people,
yes.
And you're using the skills we talked about before. Some of if you're answering the phone or talking to people, you are problem solving.
I am.
Yeah.
I love talking to people, and from the sort of contact that I used to have, I started out helping the office a long time ago. After after services are delivered, there's a policy within Northampton Neighbors to follow up with folks to see whether their experience was good or bad. Love talking to people. They were so grateful for that phone call. And from that is now developing a program where we will be talking. Somebody will be talking with the folks at Northampton Neighbors who are isolated, many of them.
Right. Is there something I should have asked or you wish I had talked about? I always like to do that in case there's something I missed. I hate to miss something. I want to get to everything and bring out the best in every person I talk to. But is there something I should have asked you or you wish I did?
Well, no, but I wish that we had talked a little bit about my family.
Well, and we're up against the clock, but I'll let you talk about your family. You have 4 kids.
I do, and 6 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
I have a big family.
I guess you do.
But of my 4 children, they're all caregivers. Okay, everybody in the family, except for a couple, are in the give back. I've got 2 nurses and 1 almost a nurse, a granddaughter who'll be a nurse. But 2 daughters of mine are nurses.
Wow.
One of them has her master's degree, and she's teaching at HCC.
Wow.
And working at Cooley Dickinson Hospital. And I have a daughter who's a special ed teacher, and a son who's a therapist.
As I said to my mom one day, we were talking about the future, and she was talking about if she wasn't around, and she was a little worried about me. And I said, Mom, don't worry about me because you dragged me upright.
Yeah.
All right? And I think you dragged your kids upright. They're helping people.
They are.
And you're helping people. So it's a really good thing.
It is.
Thank you for taking time. Sharon Martula, thank you for joining us for Backyard Oasis.
My pleasure.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Raper, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819. If you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard Oasis, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.